So I want to take this opportunity once again to speak directly to the people and leaders of Iran. As you gather around the Nowruz table, from Tehran to Shiraz to Tabriz, from the coasts of the Caspian Sea to the Persian Gulf, you're giving thanks for your blessings and looking ahead to the future. This year we have the best opportunity in decades to pursue a different future between our countries.
Well, isn't that special? The President of the United States, our Commander-in-Chief, wishing everyone in Iran a happy Persian New Year.
You didn't say it right. Isn't that special?
Well,
there you go. We'll work
good.
on it.
I will.
The president telling leaders of Iran we have the opportunity to create a different future between our two countries. And joining us now is defense expert Colin Clark. He is the editor of Breaking Defense.
Colin, we welcome you in from Newsmax Washington this morning. You just heard the president again reaching out to the Iranians. He's doing that at the same time he says, well, we got to reassess things with Israel. Have we forgotten who our ally is and who our enemy might be?
Oh, I don't think we've forgotten either issue. The hard part right now is that Netanyahu hasn't exactly been our best chum as far as the administration's concerned for the last couple of years. The administration clearly feels it's sort of lost any leverage it's got with Netanyahu. At the same time, if you talk to folks in the Pentagon on a regular basis, they clearly see Iran as the single greatest threat in the background, along with North Korea. And they want to get something done. The administration wants to get something done. And in order to do that, you've got to juggle both of these very fractious nations who think that they know better than we do what needs to be done in their part of the world.
Yesterday we had Pat Buchanan on the show, and he was basically saying that Israel needs us more than we need Israel. Do you agree with that? And saying that he also said we can't fix the Middle East.
I think he's absolutely right. The conflicts in the Middle East have not gone away since the end of World War II. They have, if anything, grown steadily more fractious in more places, although we haven't had a major state-on-state war for a few years, thank goodness, since 1973. But how do you get the Israelis to do something with a solid Republican Congress that will pretty much give Israel anything it wishes, and the administration wants to push Israel? It leaves you with very few levers.
Colin, let's turn our attention now to Iraq. General David Petraeus, who is still consulting this administration, says ISIS is not the biggest problem facing the Iraqis. It's the Shia militias backed by Iran. Do you agree with that assessment?
Honestly, I don't know at this stage. Petraeus still has excellent access to a lot of very senior people in Washington. He may know things the rest of us don't. I do think that the idea that the Shia brigades actually have more power than the government in Iraq is a bit of a stretch at this point. If they actually start behaving badly, as some reports indicate, that they've been looting some of the Sunni villages, then that will, I think, be the real test, whether the government brings them back into line. If they don't bring them back into line, it may look as if the Iranian influence has overwhelmed us.
Colin, I want to talk in the few seconds that we have remaining about Tunisia and about that recent attack. We're now receiving word that 2 of the attackers actually received training in Libya. What do you make of this?
I think it's something we're going to see a lot more of over the next 3 to 5 years. People who get very short bursts of training by bad people in remote places where we don't have good intelligence, and they are going to come back to places where they grew up, and they are going to do bad things. It's the perfect scenario for somebody doing something in the United States sometime in the future.
And on that ominous note, I
it's-
tell you what, Colin, we're going to have to pause here. We're going to bring you back to talk more about what might happen here and what we need to keep in mind. Colin Clark stays with us. We hope you will too.
And I strongly support the President in requesting a defense budget above the artificial caps of the Budget Control Act. That is, above so-called sequester levels, next year and in the years thereafter.
New Defense Secretary Ashton Carter offering his support of the president's proposed defense budget.
This as a group of Republicans are vowing to defeat the GOP budget, saying it shortchanges defense programs.
Debates going on across party lines and in the same party. Let's continue our conversation now with defense expert Colin Clark. He's the editor of Breaking Defense. And Colin, I just got to ask you, what's your take on this? Will sequestration stay in effect?
Right now, it's very hard to tell because the Republican Party is absolutely and completely fractured on this. The defense hawks are pushing really hard to get a budget, basically what the president's proposed. It's one of those ironies that you have a lot of Republicans now siding with Obama on the defense budget. The deficit hawks think these people are nuts and want sequestration to continue. Who's going to win at this point? It's a little difficult to tell. I think things are beginning to move in the defense hawks' favor.
Why so? Is that because of recent?
The House.
No, I interrupted you. Go ahead.
Sorry,
continue.
the House actually passed a budget resolution that effectively gives the country the same budget that Obama wants, but does it with leisure domain. They stick the $38 billion over the budget caps into the Pentagon's operational budget. Now, they're not supposed to do that. That's supposed to be a violation of the basic budgeting principles, but that's the way they've approached this.
And
the
to be
Senate's
fair,
taken a very different approach.
Yeah, and to be fair, we went through several years where the Senate never really came up with a budget proposal, and we have not had regular order on Capitol Hill in terms of spending and budgeting since Mr. Obama became president. Be that as it may, you're someone who keeps an eye on this. If you, Colin Clark, were setting priorities for our national defense, not only for this year, but in the years beyond, how would you list them? We got a couple of minutes left, so you need to fit it into that time frame, Colin.
No pressure.
Gee, that's simple. Okay, first off, you limit the personnel costs, especially TRICARE and some of the other things, which the administration has been trying to do. The other one, the really big one that Congress does not want to do, is base closures. The Pentagon has an enormous amount of basically wasted space that it wants to get rid of, and Congress won't let it because, well, it'll affect congressmen. And if you actually brought that back, the defense budget would be in much better shape, and the Air Force, for example, probably wouldn't have to retire the A-10 close air support plane, which Congress feels so strongly about. I mean, you've got this, right now, this wonderful hypocrisy on the Hill where they don't want to allow a lot of the efficiencies that the Pentagon has proposed, but gosh, they don't want anything else done either.
Well,
And
so
at
what
the
you're
same
saying
time,
is
they don't want to cut the budget.
Base relocation and closure, BRAC, was the acronym we used when I was in Congress. I'm a guy who saw a longtime base, Williams Air Force Base, go away. It's now Williams Gateway Airport in the East Valley of Arizona. There are new applications, and I think the challenge you're laying out, Colin, is a good one. Members of Congress have to understand that with these resources, not every base can stay open in every place, in every congressional district, so maybe it is time for a BRAC Junior. And on that note of agreement, Colin Clark, editor of Breaking Defense, we thank you very much for your time and your insights as you join us today from Washington, D.C.
My pleasure.
Yeah, I hear BRAC, and for some of us who are animation aficionados, there's more than just the historical reference to Congress. There's my favorite little character from Space Ghost who ended up with a show of his own on Cartoon Network's Adult Swim.
The man should play Jeopardy, should he not?
Well, I just keep watching crazy cartoons. Brack would talk like this. He had a funny voice. I better not do that. It destroys credibility. Coming back with more on American Forum with Brack.